The EP Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at theeppodcast.com.
A special Friday edition of the EP Podcast on Veterans Day will include our final conversation of the season with Evergreen Park Mustangs head coach Jerry Verde. The Mustangs unfortunately saw their season end last weekend. We will wrap up the season with the coach after spending the entire season with them each and every Football Friday. And before that, we're going to visit with a local veteran as a mural is unveiled at Veterans Park in Evergreen Park. It's all brought to you by the First National Bank of Evergreen Park. Statement Savings Special, 2.5%, 11-month CD at 3%, 26-month CD, 3.25%. Stop in and see them at that iconic building, 95th and Pulaski. Check out the Total Access checking account. Get free ATMs nationwide and a $300 bonus. They got mobile banking tools, award-winning customer service, $100 required to open that, no minimum monthly balance or monthly maintenance fees, member FDIC. The Village of Evergreen Park was out on Thursday night. A brand new mural unveiled at Veterans Park. We watched it with a local vet.
And thank you everyone for coming tonight. I'm Kelly Burke, Mayor of Evergreen Park, and we are so happy and proud to present this unveiling of the mural. Evergreen Park resident Dan Doyle came to me with this idea about a year ago as a way to showcase some art in the community, but also to get folks involved, and he came up with the idea of a veterans mural at Veterans Park. These are beautiful, and hopefully you'll have an opportunity to come up and look at them closer. So to our veterans who are here tonight, thank you for serving and protecting our freedoms. I would like to bring up the artist, Dan Doyle, and have him say a few words.
What Kelly Burke said, this was definitely a building community experience. It was really nice to see people drive by, get out, and help with this painting. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that came out tonight. Let's give a round to the artists that are here that help out tonight. And thank you to the vets, and thank you Evergreen Park.
All right, we're at Veterans Park, and we just watched the new mural get unveiled, and you heard a little bit from Mayor Kelly Burke and the artist Dan Doyle. Both have been on the show so many times. There's another guy that's been on our program so much here on the EP Podcast. He's an author, he's a veteran, he lives here in Evergreen Park, drives a Humvee around. He's fun with children. I don't know how else to describe you. Eric Herrera's here. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Happy Veterans Day? Is that how I say it?
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, tomorrow, so we'll be out and about in a Humvee tomorrow driving around.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what do you think of the mural? Because to describe it for people who have not seen it, it's all the insignias it looks like on the bottom, and then it's a silhouette on the top of all of the different branches. So it's all the branches insignias with a silhouette saluting above it. And I asked you, the first question I asked you was, did they get it right with the uniforms, the way they stand for each branch? Because it's a little different for everybody.
Yeah, they got every salute right. They even got the uniform right. Even though it's a silhouette, you could tell what the uniforms are. But yeah, down to the hats, the covers, even the Marine Corps belt. But I think it's kind of funny that the Army one is in fatigues and everyone else is in their formal wear. Army, we really don't care. We just come out in whatever.
Yeah, it fits for you, right?
Yeah, it's perfect. Mr. Doyle did his research and did a really good job on this.
That's really cool. So what does it mean to you to see this? We've talked about this before. People will come up, they'll thank you for your service, they'll do these kind of events and things like that. What does it mean for you that as you drive down the street here, this is California we're standing on, so it's going to get some traffic, and it's also in a neighborhood where kids are going to play and they're going to come to the park and they're going to see it. What does it mean to you to see something like this put up as a permanent thing in Evergreen?
Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, I live by here, and we pass by this park all the time, and be able to see this now all the time now is going to be really good. Yeah, right now it's a tough time for actually veterans. The number is going up for suicides, so it's up to 22 a day. We try to get that number down and get that awareness out there more. But I have seen now that they are doing a lot better. You see billboards on 294, and you see the commercials now. and the awareness is getting out there, but there's more that we could do for veterans.
So I guess the message would be, this is great. It's awesome. It's a great thing by the artist Dan Doyle and the Village of Evergreen Park. But on top of thanking a vet for Veterans Day every day, make sure you're keeping an eye, you're supportive, and then if they need somebody to talk to, you're an ear for them, right?
Oh, I'm always here. I mean, I take the Humvee out to the car shows too, and we have veterans come up all the time and talk with us. And some of that short time, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, it's a little healing process for both me and the other veterans too, be able to talk about it. I mean, I get guys come up to me, talk to me for about an hour, and they say, I never talked about this before in my life, anything about my military service. And just giving back, doing that, spreads the word out and gets the awareness out there and really helps out a lot.
Eric Herrera, he's a Evergreen Park veteran standing here at the brand new mural. And again, thank you for your service. Happy Veterans Day. And everybody can check out his book. You can get it on Amazon and I'm sure at other places as well. A Bomb Hunter's Story by Eric Herrera. Thanks so much, my friend.
Thanks, Chris. You have a good one.
Building relationships, supporting the community, and service. These are the things that Country Financial stands for. They're more than just an office you may pass by as you drive through Evergreen Park. They're neighbors who lend a helping hand and support the fabric of your community, including charitable organizations, sports, financial education, and civic organizations. And since Country is already your neighbor, they want to get together and chat. Call your local Country Financial representative, Mike Thauer, today at 708-425-1559 to talk about the things that are important to you and how he can help you protect them. And joining me on the line right now, he's been with us all season long, into the postseason, head coach of the Evergreen Park Mustangs, Coach Jerry Verde. How are you, Coach?
I'm doing fine, Chris.
Did you dread talking to me this week? I felt bad texting you and saying, can we talk now that the postseason has ended and the Mustangs were eliminated this past weekend? I felt bad sending you a text message.
No, not at all. It comes with the territory. I told you before, from a coaching standpoint, it was my 16th year as a head football coach, varsity head football coach, and there's only a handful of teams that are going to finish the season winning. Unless you don't make the playoffs and you're lucky enough to win Week 9 or you win a state championship, you're not going to end the season with a win, and you deal with it, and like I told the kids, it's abrupt. You're locked in for so long, practicing and proving, and football is so immersive that you just kind of get washed away with it, and then you lose a game and you realize it's over, even though you'd already started planning practices for the next week and things like that. It's just the way things go, and there's only, like I said, a handful of teams that finish with a win.
So St. Francis defeats Evergreen Park 42-0 in Wheaton on a blue field in high winds and bad weather. So how did this happen? Give me a breakdown in your mind of what happened in that game. What's the deciding factor? Or is it a bunch of factors?
Well, I'd love to just blame the weather and move on from there. But they were playing under the same conditions that we were. We ran into a team that was bigger than us up front, and they were stronger, and they had some really, really tough ball carriers, carrying the football, and we physically struggled against them. Offensively, it was very difficult for us to get anything going. We finished the game with about 5 first downs, and obviously getting shut out. And defensively, there were times that we played well. We gave up the very first play of scrimmage. We gave up a 65-yard short pass touchdown. It was a disappointing way to start the game, but we rallied from there. They were just a little too much for us on that particular day, and them being bigger and stronger than us, it really took a toll that particular day. If we were going to score against that team, it would have needed to be through the passing game, and passing, on that field was difficult. It was difficult for them, difficult for us, and for them, they were still able to run the ball.
Talk about your team this year as a whole. What stood out to you about the Evergreen Park Mustangs? What stood out to you about this 2022 team that you'll remember as you go on in your coaching career?
Well, there's a lot to celebrate. There really is. We came into the season after going 6-3 with a team that we knew the year before was going to be a good team. And I think we learned some really valuable lessons from the year before. We ended up going, if you remember last year, the 2021 season, we ended up going 6-3, but we could have went 9-0, and we could have went 8-1, and we could have went 7-2, but we didn't. And some of those lessons were learned and were able to be carried over into this year. We had players that had experience from last year that really stepped up, and from the skill position standpoint, especially offensively, our younger players, the guys that were juniors, Dejan Feliciano and Jed and Tony Clay Jones and things. They really stepped up the running game, and like we talked about right from the beginning, we knew line-wise, offensive line, defensive line, we would be improved from 2021. And we still think that made all the difference for us during the regular season, pulling off the 3 wins in a row there at the end. So no matter how you look at it, it was a season of growth for us, and we feel pretty good about that.
When you take a glance at your schedule, and I look back at each and every week sitting down and talking with you here on the EP podcast and the progression of the team. I remember we had 2 non-conference games at the beginning. They're blowouts. You say, hey, we play who we've got on the schedule. Those are different animals than playing in your conference games. You get into your conference, and your first 4 games in your conference, you go 2-2. You win against Oak Lawn, which is a rivalry game. You win by 7 points over Revis, but you lose to Richards, and you lose a game to Thornton Fractional South, which actually, is a non-conference game as well. But you lose to them, and you're 2-2 after coming out of those first 2 games. You're 4-2 overall, and it felt like from that point on, a switch got flipped. Like something was learned in the early part of the season that led to you with, very convincing wins over Shepherd, Blue Island, Argo, Comer. I mean, you seem to be on such a roll. That's why the end result and the final game is so shocking, I think, to a lot of us, because you were rolling those last 4 weeks. Talk about what happened midway through the season and why all of a sudden it seems like your team just got going.
The first 2 games, the first 2 non-conference games, and we talked about before, were games that we really did think would be, when we scheduled them, would be competitive, and they ended up, being lopsided, and we didn't learn enough from those first 2 games. Probably, it's hard to learn whether or not you're working hard enough when you're, when the results still are what they were, and what we ended up learning through the next 4 games was, we weren't working hard enough, even though we were able to come up with the win against Oak Lawn and come up with the win against Revis. The TF South game proved that we weren't putting in the amount of work that needed to be put in. And that's pretty much the lesson that really got learned, and the message, that you're always sharing with the players, from a coaching standpoint is, for the last 4 weeks there, it was earn the win. And it was the same thing for the second round versus, Wheaton St. Francis. And, they just ended up being a better team than us, on that day in particular, for sure. And, did we work hard enough that week, leading up into that second round game? I think we did, but we also didn't have the greatest week of practice, and the guys would be the first ones to tell you that. But the switch gets flipped after that TF South game, and we got on that nice roll, and really credit the coaches and the kids combined on that one, because the work put in and the quality of work put in was excellent during that time. It really was.
What carries over to next year?
You're always it's always in the back of your mind what the future holds, and I have asked myself that question, and we already have some of the younger guys trying to also have that conversation early. But the first thing that hopefully changes is always going to be that concept of expectations. What do you expect to be? Who do you expect to be? And an expectation for our program, for a while was, if we can get to 5-4 and slip into the playoffs, then it's a successful season. And I think over the last 2 years, the expectations have shifted from, maybe 5-4 isn't good enough. 6-3 is better. 7-2 is better. And learning from that and learning from the players that come before you in order to, get off of the expectation of 5-4 that it isn't good enough. Is the thing that carries over. You talk about the idea of tradition, and everyone wants to say that their football program or whatever they're doing has a particular tradition, but traditions take time, and it's not just 1 year. You can't establish a tradition in 1 year. It takes multiple years, and what we've been able to do is, the last 4 seasons where the playoffs were a thing, we've made the playoffs. So that's part of our tradition now. This program should always make the playoffs. But to add into that tradition, the idea that, aiming for that better record and knowing that you got to earn that better record is really what should carry over. And when you're able to raise the expectations for your program, that's a big deal because, everyone wants to say, well, you had a bad season at 1 year, and our expectation is to improve from there. But, how are you doing it? Do you have players that are able to understand that what it's going to take to change that record? And now I think we do have, players that have lived through that idea that, seen the improvement and seen us beating teams that in the past maybe we hadn't beaten. So that idea of expectation is a big thing we really want to carry into next year, because when you have expectations that have changed, everything that goes along with those expectations also changes. The work ethic, what you need to do in the off season, what the expectations for commitment are all part of that.
There's been times in my life where I come into an organization, join some sort of sport, whatever it may be. That they're going someplace when it's not just the coach, the boss, the leader who's setting the expectation. It's the other people that have been there for a few years before you. Do you now look at the juniors becoming seniors and the sophomores becoming juniors and expect them to look down at and help and pull up the younger kids and the kids that will be entering next year? Is that something that really sets what a program is? Because it just can't be you and the coaches, right? It has to be the players buying into it and saying, this is what Evergreen Park Mustang football is. This is what we've done over the last couple of years, and this is what we expect if you're going to play on the varsity team.
Absolutely. You hit it on the head. I tell the kids all the time, this isn't my program. You're not playing for me. You're playing for each other. This is your program. No matter how hard I work, no matter what I do on Friday night, I'm not going to throw 1 touchdown pass, make 1 tackle, score 1 touchdown. This is your program, and I can help. I can navigate the ship. I can set the direction. I can try to set the expectations. But in the end, it's the players that will meet and exceed those expectations and will make the plays, and their actions will dictate whether or not we're successful. So having the players, next year's seniors understand that it is their program and it's their leadership that's just as important as any coach's leadership is what really leads to success. And that's when, there's a saying that, winning can perpetuate winning. And that does happen, but it only happens when the players are being the ones that perpetuates that winning. Ideally, that's exactly what will happen, is that our older guys will show the younger guys what it takes to win, and they'll get on board, and the winning will continue.
You mentioned to me, I think entering the postseason, it could have been last week, it was off the air, that you love playoff football, but you've been going at this for a long time. Back into the summer, it's been just a nonstop grind. Now that it's over, you can look back on your season, you've had a chance to process it. What are you going to do with your spare time? Because you have oodles of it all of a sudden, right? I mean, all of a sudden it's like, Jerry Verde's got all kinds of time on his hands.
Yeah, that's funny because, every year, anybody who coaches any kind of sport, but football in particular, summer camp starts in June and it carries through July. We started as early as we started August 8th. this year with the regular season, and it didn't get over until Saturday. And it's what I'm used to. It's what I've always done. And if you take it back even further than that, we'll start our off-season lifting program in January. So it's a very long road. When it ends, it's like I said, it's abrupt. But my family already has laid claim to my time, but that's fine. I mean, it's something obviously you don't realize all the things you've been missing until you're doing them, and I've already experienced that a little bit, in the last couple of days. So it's interesting, but there's still a lot of other things to get done. Even closing out a football season with making sure all the equipment and uniforms get turned in, and we have our awards night and things like that. So there's still things to do, but not quite the time crunch that we've been dealing with for the last 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, however you want to look at it.
Wow. Head coach Jerry Verde, the Evergreen Park Mustangs go 8-3, get a playoff victory in the first round, and you can see a program that is building, especially over the last couple of years, and we've been really fortunate that we've been able to follow along with it here on the EP podcast over the last couple of seasons. It's been kind of fun to just be a little part of it and get to check in with you each and every week, and I'll miss our chats, but I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. We appreciate it.
Another show isn't wrapped up. Another show's in the books. Another show isn't wrapped up. And then by the looks, it's going to be a good one. And we'll see you next week. And the nude is basement. And the nude is basement. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. And it's in the books. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. And by the looks, it's gonna be a good one. Nudie's Basement. Broadcast Basement. The Nudie's Basement. The Broad Basement. Slancha.
The EP Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at the eppodcast.com.